Hi, this is Kate from Generate Magic, and I'm so excited to share this video with you today. I just saw the movie Everyone, Everywhere, All at Once. I think I said that correctly. And you know, a lot of us that are into manifestation, we hear all this stuff like parallel realities and alternate timelines, and it can all seem a bit abstract and really kind of hard to wrap our heads around. But this movie really helps to put all of it into focus. And I have to be honest, like, I think this kind of illustrates my own limiting beliefs. I was really excited to see the movie until I had heard that it got all these Oscar nominations. And I kind of had this idea of like what an Oscar movie looks like, you know, like stuffy, pretentious, depressing. And this movie was none of these things. It was super exhilarating, fun, weird, lots of funny moments as well. And it really reminded me of some of those movies, the really great movies of Charlie Kaufman, like Adaptation and Being John Malkovich, and just this really just unbridled, unlimited feeling, like really what film should be and what art should be. And so I'm going to be referring to my notebook from time to time because there's so much I want to share and I want to make sure that I don't leave anything out. And so first of all, there's a ton of, you know, and people, you know, out there that are doing all sorts of like analysis of the movie and what does it really mean. And all that stuff is interesting to me, like as a film buff, and I used to be a film critic myself. And so I definitely find that stuff fascinating, but I'm going to talk about the movie like as it relates to us as master manifestors and conscious creators. And as I've talked about in my, when I do my song breakdowns as well, it's all about the meaning that we apply to it because we're the conscious creators. And so I'm going to share what I got out of it, and I'm hoping that this, in fact, I know that this will connect with you as well. And so first of all, starting out with the opening scene of the movie. And so it starts out with this family and they're just very happy, they're laughing, and it's kind of shot in a way sort of like in a vignette, like a portrait of them. And this is very like intentional in that it's kind of, you know, throughout the movie it's drawing attention to itself as a movie. And so then the vignette quickly fades and we see the woman, the main character, who's played by Michelle Yeoh, and it's very much kind of exemplifies the feeling that's felt in the title, that everything's just happening all at once. It's just pure chaos. And she's trying to do her taxes, and she has these receipts just spread all over her desk, and it's just a complete mess. And at the same time, like, her father's coming, and she's really stressed out about this, and she's trying to make everything perfect, and she has a laundromat that she's also running, and so she's trying to kind of deal with all the characters, and not all the characters, all the customers in the laundromat at the same time. Some of them are certainly characters, and we just really like feel for her, like all the chaos that she's going through as she's, you know, trying to hold it all together. And I could definitely like relate to the you know, to the taxes as well, you know, as tax season is coming upon us. And ever since I've become, you know, like a business owner, taxes are just always really stressful for me. Like, I definitely miss my W-2 days. But this just takes it to a whole new level when you actually see all the receipts spread out all over her desk, and it's just such a mess. And at the same time, her business isn't going so well. Her relations with her family are not going well. Her marriage is failing. She and her daughter, who is now, I believe, in her early 20s, she and her daughter are at odds with each other. She and her father had a falling out long ago where her father basically disowned her. And so very much a departure from that happy family image you get at the very beginning of the movie. And it's almost kind of like she's entered like a new timeline, like a new parallel reality, where that happy familial image that we get at the very beginning of the movie, she's left that to reality, and she's entered a whole new universe of, as she calls it, taxes and laundry, and just, yeah, and just pure, you know, chaos and dysfunction. And but then and so things just continue to kind of get worse and worse in her current timeline or her current reality. And so she's actually facing in a meeting with the auditor. And the auditor is just a super scary, you know, and intimidating woman. And she basically is kind of calling out all these different things that she's kind of written off on her taxes. Like she wrote off her karaoke machine as a tax expense, and she says, well, you know, I'm not just owning a laundromat, I'm also a singer. and the auditor, who's played by Jamie Lee Curtis, and she basically says, you know, you're full of shit. And so it just seems things are just not good for her, to put it in short. And but then she basically gets this well, back up a little bit. So on her way to the meeting, she's in the elevator, and suddenly her husband becomes sort of like a different person. Like, he still looks the same, but it's like he takes on like a new persona. And so he gives her the opportunity to enter a new life track. And so if you're familiar, you know, at all, you know, if you've gotten into kind of the more out there quantum aspects of manifestation, or if you've gotten into reality transurfing, you might have heard the phrase of like alternate life tracks. And so it's basically just that. It's basically deciding, okay, I don't like the way this life track is going, so let's choose a new one. And so I think this is a very good, you know, the movie does a very good kind of vivid illustration of this to help us kind of grasp this concept in a concrete way. And so then as soon as the elevator ride ends, he's like, you know, you won't remember any of this, because then she's kind of snapped back into her other reality where she's dealing with this auditor. But she keeps getting kind of zapped back into this alternate life track. And so pretty soon she can't even concentrate on what the auditor is saying, because she keeps getting interrupted by this other reality. And so anyway, all of this is just kind of illustrating, right, that in any given time, we can choose a new life track. In other words, we can kind of change, you know, we can change how things are going. We can decide, okay, I don't like this. Let's try something new. Let's try something different. And now at this point, I'm going to refer to my notes to make sure that I am staying on track. And so, yes, and so one point that they bring up in the movie, and those of you, again, who are familiar with reality transurfing might have heard this concept of anomalous action. So anomalous action is basically doing something different. And so in the movie, she is told that if she wants to change to a new life track, she needs to do something different. And so she starts by switching her shoes and putting them on the opposite pair of feet. And so that would be an example of an anomalous action. And then later on, her husband eats his chapstick. So that's another example of doing something completely different, completely out of the ordinary. And you know, of course, like, it's a movie, so it's gonna, you know, and it's meant for entertainment, so it's gonna be super, you know, wacky and out there. But really, doing something different, it can be anything, you know, anything just to kind of change things up. And so, for instance, it could be taking a new route home from work, or it could be reacting to something in a different way. And so let's say that somebody cuts you off when you're driving. So instead of getting all pissed off and cursing out the other driver, instead you could laugh about it. You can make a joke about it. I think humor is always a good way a good example of anomalous action, and a good way to kind of switch things up. And so I think the movie is really great because it's so humorous, and because it's so weird and inventive and just totally out there. And yeah, so if you want to bring in something new, you know, if you want to get out of a rut, for instance, then just try on something new, switch things up a little bit, is the lesson or the message that I got from it. And I think another good illustration in this, which I think is a more kind of realistic one that I think, you know, everybody can really relate to, is the you know, or people, you know, anytime that you've been, for instance, like in you know, in a relationship that isn't going very well, and it kind of feels like you're just going through the motions and not really having that connection anymore than that, or that intimacy that you had when the relationship first started. And so the husband and wife in the movie are very much going through this, and the husband just cannot get through to her at all. And so he basically presents her with divorce papers, and the divorce papers are meant as a wake-up call. And he makes it clear that he doesn't actually want to get a divorce, but he wants a change. And he recognizes that the only way to actually get her attention is to tell her, look, you know, things have to change. And, you know, and if things don't change, if things just continue at this pace, then I'm actually willing to walk away. And so it's a very powerful statement, you know, saying that things, yeah, that things have to change, you know, that things have to, that she actually has to make like an effort towards improving things, you know, in their marriage. And so yeah, I think presenting, and obviously you don't have to, you know, present your husband or your wife with divorce, but I think the message is, you know, that sometimes if things have been going, you know, along a certain path for a really long time, you have to do something different in order to shift that energy significantly in a new direction. And so I'm again going to refer to my notes. And so this is another powerful moment in the movie. And so she becomes kind of like, in her alternate life track, she becomes sort of this superhero type character. And so she, and there's, I'm bad with names, but anyway, there's this kind of other kind of superhero type character who's in charge of this whole universe, who recruits her for the mission. And she says, well, why me? She says, you know, I'm just a failure. I can't even, you know, run my business correctly or do my taxes. And why me? And for the super important mission. And so he tells her, he says, you are precisely the person that we need for this mission. And he says, you know, every failure, every rejection, every disappointment has brought you exactly to the moment where you are now. And to me, that's such a powerful and such an inspiring and empowering message, right? That every moment has brought you to the moment where you are now. And you can continue to wallow in that energy. You can continue to wallow in the not enoughness, the feeling like a failure, feeling like a disappointment. Or you can say, you know, this is where I am now, and now's the chance to hit the reset button. Now's the chance to become something bigger than all of those things, to stand in the greatness of who I really am. I think that's the message that I got out of it, is yes, on one level, all of those things, you know, are true, but then on another level, there's like a deeper reality and a deeper version of herself and of ourselves beneath all of that. And that is our I am presence. That is our connection with this divinity and with this universal presence. And so this is her opportunity to really stand in that, to stand in that greatness, and to become, you know, a superhero, and to unleash her superpowers. And another important message that I got from the movie, and I think a message that we all need to hear if we've, you know, been in this manifestation game for a while, is I think sometimes, you know, we get the message that you know, that once we kind of master all this stuff, and then everything's suddenly just become, you know, magical, which it is, but, you know, we're going to be like in Hogwarts, basically, or it's going to be like Harry Potter, like literally like levitating and just yeah, just completely different. And so then we look around and we say, well, I still see, my same, my same house. I still see my same, the people around me are still the same. Like what gives? I don't feel like a master creator. I feel like my same old limited self. And the message that I got from this is it's none of this is about escapism. And definitely, in that moment, where she's doing her, she's being faced with the auditor, and it just kind of seems like this is literally the worst thing that could be happening at that moment. And but it's not about escaping. Instead, it's about stepping into this higher power, this higher perspective. And then, not to give too much away, but she does address all of these quote unquote problems, the issues that she's facing with her marriage, with her daughter, with her life as a whole, and even with her taxes. And she goes back and addresses all of these things, but from this higher perspective. And when she does this, it's such a different energy, because she's standing in her power, and she's no longer letting her circumstances control her. She's no longer just being, run by her circumstances, but she's the one that's in charge. And she's seeing, all of this through this higher perspective, and this perspective of love and power. And yes, and love is another, seeing everything through the perspective of love is another message that I got from the movie. And that's a message that comes through her husband. And so her husband, she kind of sees him as being sort of weak. Like he is not your typical version of like a macho man, and she's almost kind of playing the masculine role in this marriage. And she sees her husband, just being kind of like a pushover, not having a backbone. And but there's this powerful line where he says, people see me as being naive, but he says, but by always seeing things through this lens of love and seeing the good in everyone and in everything, that's actually his superpower. And then she sees how he's able to get them out of these sticky situations using the superpower of love. And she realizes that that love is a power, and that we can actually be a warrior through the power of love, and that all quote unquote problems diminish when we're standing in this higher power. So that that is really the true higher power and the higher perspective, the one that's kind of unifying all of this. And that's something that came through, I believe, very clearly in this movie. And so when she sees everything through this perspective of love, she's able to see her shared humanity with everybody around her, with her husband, with her daughter. She sees, before she was just seeing all this separation with her daughter, how her daughter was everything that she just was rejecting everything that her daughter was. But she sees how she and her daughter really have this shared humanity and these shared connections. And this kind of gets to the whole idea of like everyone is pushed out. That her daughter, the more she sees that her daughter is her, the more she's able to love and to accept and to embrace her daughter. In spite of all these kind of surface level imperfections that she sees with her daughter, like the fact that her daughter doesn't call, the fact that her daughter gets a tattoo even though she's against tattoos, the fact that her daughter is dating a woman, which in her in her culture and her generation is something that she's not like fully aligned with, but she's able to kind of see her daughter through this light of love. And to see that all these kind of perceived differences on the surface really she's able to see through the separation, basically, is what I'm trying to say. And even with the auditor, she's able to have this connection with her as well, and no longer see her as the enemy, but to see her, the shared bond with her, and to see her through this light of love and through this lens of love, and which is so powerful. And I think, again, something that we can all take away from this. And that even our mortal and quote unquote mortal enemies, or people that just seem like they're out to get us or to make our lives miserable, there really is this core of connection that we share, even with these people. And by finding that core, by finding that common thread, we can actually unite with these people, and we can resolve some of these problems. And so let me see what else, if there's anything else that I want to make sure that I bring up. Oh yes, and so the final point that I want to bring up is there's this moment where her she's having trouble connecting to this alternate reality or this alternate universe. She's kind of stuck, and so her daughter and her daughter is you know, there's always kind of like alternate versions of all of these characters, which is kind of illustrating the point that all of us, there's like infinite versions of us and these different parallel realities. And so there's this kind of like superhero version of her daughter who's kind of guiding her in the whole process of, you know, quantum leaping and moving to these parallel universes. And so her daughter tells her, literally gets her to kind of open her fingers, and she says, you know, you have to open your mind, basically, is what she's saying. She says, you know, you've been living in a box this whole time and not even recognizing how limited it is, because when you're in that box, right, you don't even really perceive your limitations. You don't perceive that there's this infinite universe outside of your box. And once again, such a powerful message, right? To step out of the confines of this box that we've been living in, and to see what a vast and what a beautiful and what astounding universe it is that we occupy, and knowing, yeah, just seeing how infinite all of it and how beautiful all of it really is, and it's no accident, right, that the whole movie is very meta. It's very much calling attention to itself as a movie. There's also, when she's kind of you know, jumping between these parallel realities, it shows these people sort of like in a control room, right? And it's all kind of bringing attention to ourselves as the creators of our reality. We're creating the movie, right? And the more we have awareness of ourselves in the center of all things, and as creators, the more we can navigate this reality more smoothly. And so we feel this connection, we feel this love, and even when it seems like things are spiraling out of control, and yeah, everything's happening all at once, and we can tap into that higher power and tap into that divinity within us and within everything, and we can navigate through all of it. And yes, I think it's no accident as well that they chose Michelle Yeoh as the lead, you know, being as she rose to prominence, you know, as an action star. You know, a lot of us know her from Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and this is in the movie also in one of her character in one of her parallel timelines. She is an action star, and so yeah, and so I think it's just saying, you know, we all can be, you know, action stars, right? We all can be superheroes, the superheroes of our lives, and it's not, and it doesn't have to be, you know, like Marvel, you know, X-Men shooting rays out of our fingers. It's the true superpower is love, and seeing everything through this higher perspective. and being able to win over the heart of an auditor, of the meanest, nastiest auditor, and that really is the true superpower. So that's what I want to leave you with today. I would love to get your thoughts, and thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day.